Letter to God. 1. What did Lencho hope for? Lencho, a diligent and hard-working farmer, placed his hopes on the arrival of rain to nourish his crops. His cornfields were in dire need of water, and he believed that timely rainfall would ensure a bountiful harvest. Since farming was his only source of livelihood, he depended entirely on nature's blessings. As he looked up at the sky, he longed for rain, convinced that it would bring prosperity and financial security for his family. 2. What did Lencho say about the new coins? As soon as the first raindrops began to fall, Lencho was overjoyed and referred to them as new coins. He perceived the smaller raindrops as 5-cent coins and the larger ones as 10-cent coins. This comparison reflected his strong belief that rainfall was directly linked to his financial well-being. To him, the rain was not just water, but a symbol of wealth, as it promised a rich harvest that would bring economic stability. His optimism and gratitude were evident in the way he associated nature's gift with material prosperity. 3. How did the rain change? What happened to Lencho's field? At first, the rainfall was gentle and beneficial, exactly as Lencho had hoped. It fell steadily over the fields, refreshing the crops and promising a good yield. However, within moments, the situation took a drastic turn. The raindrops were soon replaced by large hailstones, which began to pelt the earth with force. The hailstorm grew intense, covering the entire landscape in a thick layer of ice. Lencho watched helplessly as his flourishing crops were completely destroyed. The once green fields were now barren, and the plants, which had held the promise of a good harvest, lay flattened and ruined. The destruction meant that Lencho had lost everything he had worked for, pushing him and his family towards starvation and financial distress. 4. What were Lencho's feelings when the hailstorm stopped? When the hailstorm finally ceased, Lencho stood in the midst of his ruined fields, overwhelmed with sorrow and helplessness. His heart was filled with despair as he realized that his entire year's efforts had been reduced to nothing within a matter of minutes. He understood that without a harvest, he and his family would have to endure extreme hardship. Despite his grief, Lencho did not allow himself to be consumed by hopelessness. Instead, he placed his trust in divine intervention. His unwavering faith in God gave him strength, and he refused to accept defeat. Rather than succumbing to despair, he sought a solution, believing that God would not abandon him in his time of need. 5. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? What did he do? Lencho had absolute and unshakable faith in God. He believed that God was all-knowing, benevolent, and capable of providing him with the assistance he needed. Convinced that divine help was his only hope, he decided to take an extraordinary step. He wrote a letter directly to God. In his letter, he explained his plight and requested 100 pesos to sustain his family until the next harvest. His belief was so strong that he had no doubt that God would respond to his plea. Instead of seeking help from his neighbors or the authorities, he turned solely to God, demonstrating the depth of his faith. Lencho's actions reflected his innocence, sincerity, and complete reliance on divine power. 5. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? What did he do? Lencho had unwavering faith in God. He firmly believed that God would not abandon him in his time of need. Trusting in divine assistance, he decided to write a letter to God, requesting 100 pesos to help him survive until the next harvest. His strong faith gave him the courage to ask for help, convinced that his prayer would be answered. 6. Who read the letter? The letter was first read by a post office employee who found it unusual due to its peculiar address to God. Recognizing its uniqueness, the employee handed it over to the postmaster. The postmaster, a compassionate and understanding individual, was deeply touched by Lencho's faith and sincerity. Upon reading the letter, he was astonished by Lencho's unwavering trust in divine intervention. 7. What did the postmaster do then? After reading the letter, the postmaster was greatly impressed by Lencho's unshakable faith in God. He did not want to discourage such strong belief. Instead of dismissing the letter as a foolish request, he decided to help Lencho in order to maintain his trust in divine assistance. To accomplish this, he initiated a collection among the post office employees, asking them to contribute as much as they could. He himself donated a part of his salary. Despite their efforts, they were unable to collect the entire amount of 100 pesos. However, the postmaster placed the collected sum in an envelope and addressed it to Lencho from God, ensuring that Lencho remained convinced that his prayer had been answered. 8. Was Lencho surprised to find a letter for him with money in it? No, Lencho was not surprised to receive a reply to his letter. His faith in God was so strong that he was certain his request would be fulfilled. He believed that God had heard his plea and sent him the required amount. However, upon opening the envelope, he was disappointed to find that the amount of money enclosed was less than what he had asked for. His unwavering belief in God made him assume that a part of the money had been taken by a postman before reaching him. 9. What made him angry? Lencho became angry when he realized that the amount of money sent to him was less than what he had requested. Since he had absolute faith in God, he was convinced that God could not have made a mistake or sent him less money than he needed. Instead, he suspected that the post office employees had stolen a portion of the money before delivering it to him. His anger and mistrust were evident in the second letter he wrote to God, in which he requested the remaining amount and specifically asked that it not be sent through the post office, as he believed the postal employees were dishonest and had taken a part of the money. 10. Lencho's faith in God is both inspiring and naive. Discuss. Lencho's faith in God had been truly inspiring because he had not doubted for a moment that God would help him in his time of need. His deep trust had given him hope and courage, showing how faith could be a source of strength. However, his faith had also appeared naive because he had failed to recognize human kindness. He had assumed that only God could send money and had not seen that the post office employees had been the real helpers. Instead, he had suspected them of stealing the remaining amount. This had shown that while faith was powerful, it should have been balanced with awareness of the goodness in people. 11. The postmaster played a key role in the story. What values can we learn from him? The postmaster played a key role in the story, demonstrating important values such as kindness, empathy, and generosity. Initially, he had laughed at Lencho's letter, but upon realizing the depth of the farmer's faith, he decided to help. Instead of dismissing Lencho's request, he had taken responsibility and encouraged his colleagues to contribute money, showing compassion and selflessness. Despite knowing that Lencho would never recognize his help, the postmaster had still chosen to be kind, teaching us the value of helping others without seeking credit. His character reminded us that small acts of goodness could bring hope and comfort to those in need. 12. How would the story change if Lencho knew the money came from the post office employees? If Lencho had known that the money had come from the post office employees, the story would have taken a different turn. His unshakable faith in God might have been shaken, as he would have realized that it was not divine intervention, but human generosity that had helped him. However, if he is open-minded, he could have understood that God works through people, and his faith might have evolved into a belief in both God and human kindness. This could have changed his perspective on humanity, making him appreciate the goodness in people. 13. What does the postmaster's reaction to Lencho's letter reveal about his character? The postmaster's reaction reveals that he is a kind-hearted and compassionate person. At first, he laughs at Lencho's innocence, but soon he is deeply moved by the farmer's unshakable faith in God. Instead of dismissing the letter, he decides to help Lencho maintain his faith by collecting money from his colleagues. His actions show that he values human kindness, generosity, and empathy. He does not want Lencho to lose hope, proving that he is a selfless and noble individual who believes in helping others without expecting anything in return. 14. Explain how the description of the devastation caused by the hailstorm reflects the sadness within Lencho. The description of the hailstorm reflects Lencho's deep sadness by highlighting the total destruction of his crops. The field, white as if covered with salt, symbolizes the loss of his hard work, as everything he had hoped for was wiped out. Not a leaf remained on the trees, and the corn was totally destroyed, leaving Lencho with nothing. His realization, "This year we will have no corn," shows the weight of his despair. The devastation felt even worse than a plague of locusts, intensifying his sense of hopelessness. The storm's destruction mirrored the emptiness inside Lencho, who saw no way forward and feared that his family would suffer from hunger. His despair led him to write a letter to God, as he saw no other way to overcome his suffering. 15. Why would you not agree with Lencho, calling them a bunch of crooks? Lencho was wrong in calling the post office employees a bunch of crooks because he lacked the ability to recognize and value generosity in humanity. He had unwavering faith in God, but failed to consider that help could come through people as well. Instead of appreciating the support he had received, he immediately assumed that the postman had stolen a portion of the money. The irony of the situation was that while Lencho was convinced of divine assistance, he remained ignorant of the goodness in the people around him, showing that faith should be accompanied by understanding and gratitude. Faith and foolishness are two sides of the same coin. How does this apply to Lencho? Lencho had faith in God but lacked faith in humanity. Elaborate. The story, A Letter to God, is a satire on human ignorance. Justify. Lencho's unwavering faith in God was both inspiring and flawed, making his character a perfect example of how faith and foolishness can coexist. His deep trust in divine help gave him hope and strength, but it also made him blind to human kindness. While he had complete confidence that God would send him money, he failed to recognize that it was actually the post office employees who had helped him. This ironically exposed his ignorance, as he mistrusted the very people who had shown him generosity and accused them of being thieves. The story, therefore, served as a satire on human ignorance, highlighting how blind faith, when not accompanied by awareness and gratitude, can lead to misunderstanding and misplaced accusations. It also showed that while faith is powerful, it should be balanced with reason and an understanding of human goodness. Who does Lencho think has taken the rest of the money? Describe the ironic ending of the story. Lencho believed that the post office employees had taken the remaining part of the money, as he was certain that God would send him exactly 100 pesos. Instead of being happy with what he had, he assumed that some dishonest postman had stolen a portion of it, leading him to call them a bunch of crooks in his second letter to God. The irony in the story's ending lies in the fact that the very people he accused of theft were the ones who had selflessly helped him. The postmaster and his colleagues, moved by Lencho's deep faith, collected money to support him. However, Lencho, blinded by his belief, failed to recognize their kindness. This ironic twist not only highlights his lack of awareness about human generosity, but also reinforces the idea that faith, though powerful, should be accompanied by understanding and gratitude. For introduction, advanced. Gregorio Lopez y Fuentes, through A Letter to God, crafts a profound narrative exploring unwavering faith amidst despair. The story unfolds in a simple rural setting, yet it raises deep questions about trust, belief, and human goodness. A Letter to God captures the essence of innocent faith, portraying how adversity can strengthen, rather than weaken, one's spirit. Through the character of Lencho, the author presents a timeless reflection on humanity's reliance on divine intervention during moments of crisis. Powerful words for introduction. Unwavering faith, profound, timeless, innocence, adversity, human resilience. For body, advanced. Lencho's absolute confidence in divine mercy stands in stark contrast to the harsh realities of his ruined harvest. Despite the devastation caused by the merciless hailstorm, Lencho's faith remains untouched, almost childlike in its purity. The postmaster, touched by Lencho's sincerity, mobilizes a quiet act of collective kindness, reflecting the silent compassion within human hearts. Ironically, Lencho's mistrust towards the very people who helped him reveals a tragic flaw: blind faith, when too rigid, may overlook human efforts. The narrative skillfully juxtaposes faith and practicality, leaving readers to ponder whether divine help often comes through human hands. Powerful words for body. Unshakable faith, irony, juxtaposition, sincerity, collective kindness, tragic flaw, purity of spirit. For conclusion, advanced. Ultimately, A Letter to God transcends its rural setting to offer a universal message about hope, trust, and the unseen kindness that binds humanity. The story leaves readers reflecting on a vital truth, that faith, when balanced with understanding, has the power to uplift both the believer and the benefactor. Through simple yet powerful storytelling, Fuentes invites us to re-examine the role of faith, not as a blind expectation, but as a catalyst for collective goodness. In essence, the tale reminds us that while divine help may seem distant, human kindness often serves as its closest messenger. Powerful words for conclusion. Transcends, universal message, catalyst, collective goodness, unseen kindness, reflective tone. Golden opening line idea. Faith is the delicate thread that ties human hope to the heavens, and A Letter to God masterfully captures this fragile yet enduring connection. The story reminds us that while faith gives hope, it is human compassion that truly makes miracles possible. Fuentes beautifully conveys that even in hardship, goodness and belief can survive.